Hello and welcome back to DIY Expense Tracker. Today we're going to talk to you a little bit about how you record some special types of expenses. And there's a number of the expenses which are special, air quotes, that are not actual little chit slips or little receipts. And we're going to talk about how we record them. So to know how we record them, I'm just going to take you to the Settings tab, and then we're going to go look at what our expense types are. And you'll see in the expense type, you should have some accounts called Pay My Blank. So we've set up some standard ones, a car payment, a credit card, a loan, and pay the owner. And you'll notice that all these pay accounts have these special green things over here. And what that means is whenever you pay off money that you owe, so it's not an expense, it's not a little chit slip, it's money that you owed somewhere, you have to actually categorize that a little bit differently. So you put pay my car payment, and this is the other. You check that box. And that'll apply to really anything of money that you owe to someone or money that's outstanding. Whenever you're paying money and you don't have an expense receipt in front of you, you really should have this green box checked. So we've given you these 4 out of the box, so we're going to work with those for our example. Let's go back to the Expenses tab. All right, so we're going to switch to the checking account. Now, we had some purchases on our credit card, so we're going to make a payment to our credit card. And how do we do that? So let's say it's the end of the month, and we want to pay our credit card. Notice it's not here, so we need to set that up. Let's say our Visa card. And we are going to pay off whoops, this is the invoice number where there's nothing, $1,000 on our Visa card. Now notice it allocates GST automatically. Well, of course, when you're just paying somebody money, there's no GST. So you would zero that because it doesn't apply. So you're going to say pay my credit card. You can make a note. And that, and then you can save. So you still see it's recorded down here, but it's recorded as a special expense. It's just done separately. If you're looking at your bank statement, of course, it would be on your bank statement, that payment. So that's how you can make sure that those payments happen accordingly. Speaking of credit cards, let's go over to the credit card, and you should probably have interest somewhere if you don't pay your credit card off. So interest is, again, something special that you're going to pay, but interest is not one of those special accounts with the green thing. Interest is an actual expense. It's actually something you get to write off. So now let's say you spent $25 in interest. There's no GST on the interest. And let's see if it's in here, interest and bank charges. There it is. So then you would just put that in there and save the entry. And you can see here's your interest that appears on your credit card statement. So those are 2 of the special types of payments. The other one we're going to talk about is when you pay for, let's say, a vehicle. You have a vehicle expense, a vehicle payment. You need to get that payment in. So we're going to go over here and pull down your checking account again. And it's the end of March, and we're going to pay your payment. So pick whatever manufacturer you have. We'll call it the vehicle manufacturer that I owe, whoever that might be. You would of course, put their name in here instead of that long sentence. And let's just assume we're going to call this the March payment, and that's a $550 car payment. If you have a car payment on a vehicle you purchase, there would be no GST. You would put 0. If it is a lease, that's a whole different story. So note that this is a car payment where you actually own the vehicle. So we're going to say 0. Again, it's money that you owe. So that's going to be called pay my car payment. Oops. Let me try that again. Pay my car payment. There you go. and we can save the entry. So again, you see it goes on here. It's money that you owe out to someone. So of course you wouldn't add it on, you wouldn't add any GST onto here. The fourth type of payment we're going to talk about is parking and car washes. So parking and car washes, quite often we walk up to a meter or we go into one of those car washes with the wand and we put cash into the machines in order to get our service. So there's a certain amount of cash that of course you'd be able to to claim because it's a write-off. If you had a meeting and you put money in a parking meter, you would want to be able to claim that. So if you said this is, oops, we would have to start a new one, and let's just call it parking meter. We're just going to call it generically. And take a reasonable guess at what you put into the parking meters. Now, of course, you should be keeping track of it when you go, but sometimes that's difficult. You put in a quarter here, a loonie there, and you can't keep track of it. So let's say in the month of March, you spent, let's say $15. Now, the interesting thing about parking is that it does have GST included. Even though you don't see it, it does have it. So you want to put 15 over here so that it reverses it and it calculates the GST for you. So let's go to parking. Uh-oh, nothing is there. So here's where we have to backtrack and we have to go back to our chart of accounts and put something in. So unfortunately, we're going to lose this entry. So we go back to the settings and we go back to the expense types, and you can see there's nothing for parking. So I am going to add that expense type in here. And while I'm at it, I'm going to make sure car washes is in here because that's our next one. Here's a vehicle miscellaneous. I think that will work for it, but it actually doesn't. Parking and car washes are treated a little bit separately than vehicle expenses. The vehicle expense is something that happened to your vehicle. This is something that happened with your vehicle. So we're going to call it parking and car washes in this particular category. Okay, so let's go back to here. We've got that put in. Let's go back to the expenses. And we're still in the cash. So we're going to do that again. In the month of March, in the parking meters, we put in $15. Whoops, doesn't have GST. Just go back, type in $15 here, and we should now be able to access parking and car washes. And if you like, you can put a little note, paid cash, and let's save. The exact same thing happens with car washes is sometimes we go into some place and they only take little tokens, but we have to wash our car because we're business people and we're traveling. So best guess scenario, we go in and we plunk in a bunch of loonies and toonies. We think it was about $7. Again, there is GST on that as well, even though you don't think that there is. So claim your GST. You get it back in ITCs. May as well claim it. And let's code that to parking and car washes, and let's hit enter. So those are some special kind of things that you would normally pay cash for. And the final one I want to talk to you about is when you pay yourself. So always in bookkeeping, you should never be mixing your business and your personal accounts. Lots of people do it, but it's really, really bad. And it's bad because it's difficult to trace. If Canada Revenue Agency was looking at your books, they would see all this stuff which is mixed, which would not look favorable. So you kind of want to make sure you have it separate. So what you're going to do is you're going to transfer money from your business account to your personal account, and then you would spend your money for your rent and your groceries and all that stuff out of your personal account. So when you do that, of course, when you're entering, you're going to have your bank account up and it's going to be an item on your bank statement that you're going to want to enter. So let's that's hanging on to that. Probably shouldn't be doing that. So let's say on March the 31st, you decide to pay yourself and your name is Sally Smith. And so you pay yourself. Of course, you're not paying yourself GST. $3,000. And and there's no GST on that. Let's try this again. Sorry about that. $3,000, no GST on that. And this is going to be pay the owner. And you can save. So again, you can see that this is really starting to build. You'll be able to keep track of exactly what you're paying and who you're paying it to. And you want to catch everything on the bank statement, every single entry you want to make sure goes into your books. So that's a couple of special accounts and how you pay them. And hopefully it's starting to make a little bit of sense. Let's just jot back to the dashboard for just 1 second. And you'll see on the dashboard now it's starting to come to life. You have your income, you have your expenses, and how much money you're actually starting to make. So we will see you next time when we start talking about the reports. Thanks for now.